stake in the company. That's a quick look at the news. Here with us now, U.S. Managing Editor of Financial Times, Chrystia Freeland, and Chairman of Deutsche Incorporated, Donnie Deutsch. Donnie's here again.
And Donnie cares.
Now, Chrystia, there's an op-ed in the Financial Times today, your paper, from Thomas Pally. I want to take a look at that. He says this: a second Great Depression is still possible. There are solid grounds for believing the U.S. economy will experience a second dip, followed by extended stagnation that will qualify as the second Great Depression. Some indications to this effect are already rolling in, with unexpectedly large U.S. job losses in September and the crash in U.S. automobile sales following the end of the Cash for Clunkers program. Well, these are numbers that we noticed as well. And yet we hear from people like Larry Summers that we're pulling back from the edge of the abyss. Which is it?
Well, the truth is we don't know. I think what we do know is the financial crisis, the most acute part of the financial crisis, is over. That sort of scary period a year ago when it really was possible that the big financial institutions would fail and we would have a Great Depression triggered by that. I think that is over, and we are seeing significant stabilization in the financial sector. We're seeing this week reporting from JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, and they are institutions that are doing really well. We're also seeing some growth in the U.S. economy, but what we don't know yet is whether that is intrinsic growth. What they're talking about in the White House now, they like to talk about whether the economy has enough escape velocity to be robust next year after the stimulus starts running out. And the other big temporary factor that we're seeing right now is inventory replacement. Because last year, when everyone was really scared, companies, as you know, Donnie will tell you, companies let their inventories run down. So right now we have two really powerful effects, which are quite short term, which is big government spending and inventories being replaced. When that wears out, what's going to happen next year?
Here's what scares me, and I think the article touched on this. Obviously, the 10% unemployment. But I want to go around the table. We've done this once before. I'm a behaviorist, and I think that the American psyche is damaged permanently in terms of our generation, in terms of how we spend. We're more saving and saving.
Wait. You say damaged permanently? I would say they have healed themselves.
You would say, right. The previous behavior was aberrant.
Have we not changed the way we spend? And I think permanently, that's the scary undertow in this economy that is not going to come back.
And you say it's scary. I say we've hit the reset button for the better. For 20 to 25 years.
Maybe 20 years down the road,
we have been
for the economy for the next 10 years.
I don't think it's 20 years, but I think it's a great thing that Americans are moving towards 10%. I've changed my spending habits. Have you, Willie?
Yeah, I think morally it's a great thing, without question. But as far as going to Christa's premise, or at least the Financial Times premise, that we are in for some very serious times ahead, and that this 50% market uptick or 7% is purely a liquidity head fake.
Here's the thing, though. The whole idea that we can somehow save ourselves, and economists are worried that we're saving money, that we can save ourselves by starting to spend again, suggests that we're rebuilding the same consumer-driven bubble.
I agree.
It may take 2-3 years, but Chrystia, in the long run, is this not good for the United States of America?
I think it is, and I think you're absolutely right, Joe, to say that it's not the current consumer behavior, which is an aberration.
Right.
It's the previous consumer behavior.
Joe, I agree with you. I'm just editorializing as what's going to happen in the economy. But as far as we as a country, that reset button needed to happen, and that's obvious. But that's what scares me if I'm a retailer, if I'm a car manufacturer. You saw that Cars for Clunkers thing. As soon as that stopped, boom, people stopped buying cars.
I think, you know, the big question is how it works in the global economy. Because the U.S. consumer wasn't just the engine of the U.S. economy. The U.S. consumer was significantly the engine of growth all over the world.
China,
Asia,
India,
China, Germany, hugely dependent
Brazil,
on U.S. consumption. So the big question is there going to be a reset? And are we going to, and you know, Obama is traveling to China next month. I think the most important part of that conversation is whether Obama says to the Chinese government, are you guys going to let your people start consuming?
That's a good question.
Obviously, we're shocked by what happened on September 15th last year. And the further we get away from that, the more it seems to me the big picture is emerging, which is the big idea that people aren't talking about. And that is, where does America go next? It doesn't seem to me that our Washington leaders or our commentators are talking enough about how America moves from a consumer-driven economy to an economy where we make things, where we build things, where we export things, where people across the world buy our things like they used to, and jobs are created at home, and we have this growth. So we don't need some escape philosophy, or whatever the White House said. Where do we go in the future? What are some industries where we can really export things, where we can start making things as a country again?
Well, I think actually the American dilemma on this point, and I think you're absolutely right, it's something Donnie talks about a lot too. I think America is in better shape than most of the other Western industrialized countries on that score, because America does have one huge engine of innovation that has been powering through this whole period, and that's technology. You know, look at Google, look at Apple. America has, if you look at what are the top most exciting companies in the world, I think you would still name American ones. The question is, you know, Silicon Valley is not going to be enough to support the entire American economy. And the question is, can you get
to building stuff? Axiomatically, we can't labor. When you have people in Vietnam working for 5 cents a day, there's no way we can manufacture.
But we're not necessarily talking about
this country.
Some stuff.
Technology.
I mean, Germany has maintained manufacturing capacity and high wages in that sector.
The answer, I think, with Chris is to continue, is to take kind of the technology boom, the technology lust for innovation out of Silicon Valley across the country. And that's the answer. But the days of us, I believe, making a lot of stuff, I think.
Well, you look at the fields that are the future: nanotechnology, biotechnology. You look at the fact that 8 of the top 10 universities on the planet are in America. As far as research goes, it seems to me that we're actually situated quite well to dominate economically the 21st century if we can just get our fundamentals in place.
Yeah, and I would say the other big sector, which if you were looking at what business is most excited about in terms of what's the next high-tech area, I think it's green technology.
Green technology.
And